531 VI.
It is 12 minutes past 8 o'clock for Monday, the 28th of July. Fantastic to have your company. Let's turn our attention now to the ongoing crisis that continues to unfold in Gaza. Now, Israel says it will allow more humanitarian aid into Gaza, including airdrops and temporary humanitarian pauses in some areas as international outrage grows over the worsening famine. Now, the latest is a Palestinian baby has died from malnutrition, and medics report multiple deaths and injuries near aid trucks in the past week. Israel is also opening corridors for UN convoys, but humanitarian groups warn the airdrops are costly, unsafe and won't solve the crisis. Joining me for more on this is Save the Children New Zealand Chief Executive Heather Campbell. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Look, I want to turn your attention first to the latest, and that is, of course, Israel saying that it will allow foreign aid into war-torn Gaza. What do you make of this? Meaningful?
Well, look, any increase of aid over land borders is life-saving, especially for hundreds of thousands of children who are at the brink of death. Now, how meaningful this is really depends on the length of the tactical pause. A day or a few days of food aid is not enough to bring people back or treat starvation or malnutrition. So what we need to see is a immediate and definitive ceasefire, or at least longer pause in hostilities to allow meaningful aid to come through. We have 930,000 children. Nearly every single child in Gaza is currently at the risk of famine, and 7 children have died just in the past days. So something needs to be done urgently, and it needs to be long-lasting, and it needs to happen now.
Indeed. Some of the pictures that have come out in the past few days are just horrific in the sense of, these images of children starving. With all that in mind, this aid that's now been allowed in by Israel, some would argue, well and truly late.
Well, hearing from the Save the Children and partner medical teams on the ground, we're seeing not just a big spike in malnutrition, but also in diarrhea and pneumonia. And for children, especially the smallest children, that is a deadly combination. So unless we see regular, sustained access, not just of food and nutritious, diversified food, but also medical and other equipment, we are going to see more deaths. Malnutrition is treatable, it is preventable, we know how to do it. We need access, and we need sustained access to the goods we need, and safe passage and safe ability for our and the UN workers to be able to do their work, do what we know how to do.
Yeah, look, let's elaborate on that further. I suppose in the sense of airdrops is one of the ways that, they're allowing aid into war-torn Gaza. Humanitarian pauses is another word. Is that actually helping, or dare I ask, is that just window dressing?
A humanitarian pause, like we said, an increase of aid over the land borders. We have trucks lined up with life-saving goods. The UN has trucks lined up with life-saving goods. If we want to make a real difference, like we said, a day or two will not bring people back from the brink of starvation. So without sustained, long-lasting, regular access to goods, then we won't see the changes that we need to see, and we're going to see a lot more deaths in the upcoming days.
Does Save the Children have people on the ground there, or what's the situation?
We do. We have over 280 staff on the ground in Gaza with their families. And they're doing incredible work, considering that they're also in really difficult situations.
Yeah, look, in the past few days we've heard, and it's very rare for news agencies to come out and say, look, this is a big problem for our journalists because they are starving. Save the Children, are you guys seeing that similar situation in terms of poor access to food?
I mean, everyone in Gaza is suffering. So our staff, our partner staff, their families, everyone is hungry. Everyone in Gaza is hungry, and they're desperate. And we have mothers and fathers who are risking their lives lining up at these militarized food distribution points. It's a really bad situation.
Yeah, certainly. Look, there'll be those perhaps here in New Zealand that would say, look, we're so geographically far apart? Why should we care? Why should Kiwis ultimately care about what I'd describe as a humanitarian crisis?
Well, it's human beings, it's children, and it can seem far away, but the difference we can make in one child's life, a few children's life, it makes such a difference. And to be honest, I've been amazed at the generosity and the real awareness of Kiwis. It's much more about the crisis in Gaza and the war. So it's been, I'd say, much more than other parts of the world that are less remote in a way. So I've been really, I think, uplifted by that. And I think continuing to show that humanity and that care. I mean, that's what makes us people. That's what makes us, an amazing country.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I also want to get your sense of what you make of world leaders in the past week, been mounting pressure on Israel as it's become increasingly apparent that people are starving of hunger. Yeah, they're starving in Gaza, to put it frankly. Do you feel like world leaders have been too slow to react?
Look, the politics might be complicated. The humanitarian need is not. And we have international humanitarian law. We need to apply that. Children starving isn't political. Children starving should not be a matter of debate. We need a definitive and ceasefire now, and we need open access. Open land crossings, restoring the flow of food, medical supplies, shelter items through a UN-led mechanism. That shouldn't be up for debate or discussion. That should be something that everyone pushes for wholeheartedly.
Yeah, indeed. And look, just picking up on that point as well, we've seen joint statements from international aid agencies, joint statements from world leaders, etc. Is it falling on deaf ears?
I think we're seeing movement. Hopefully this tactical pause will be a meaningful one, a longer one, and the first step that we could leverage to a definitive and immediate ceasefire. Only then are we going to see the changes that we need.
Yeah, indeed. And also, just if we bring it back to New Zealand, Save the Children New Zealand happy with the response that the New Zealand government has put forward so far?
Well, would like to acknowledge and support the New Zealand government, who have really come out in the last few days with a very strong message. Would like to see an immediate arms embargo on Israel. Now, we know that New Zealand doesn't give arms to Israel, but would like to see maybe increased pressure on our Five Eyes partner to make sure that no arms are going there that are being used against children.
Yeah. Look, what's at stake here? Time and time again, back and forth between negotiations, Israel and Hamas to try and come to a ceasefire. What's at stake here? Give us a sense if this continues to drag on.
So, as I said, over 930,000 children are on the brink of famine. That's integrated food security classification point 3, which means it's right on the edge. It's some of the worst numbers we've seen since measurement began in 2004. If we don't see sustained change, we're going to move to IPC4, which is a technical term that means famine. And we're already seeing deaths of children, deaths of adults. In some cases, it might be a little too late when things come in. So do we really want to stand by and see that happen, or are we willing to do all that we can to prevent a catastrophic result?
Indeed. Hey, look, before we wrap it up, any final thoughts from yourself, or perhaps next steps that Save the Children would like to see?
Well, an immediate and definitive ceasefire. I guess I've said that a number of times, that it's what we need to see, not a pause, not a short, drop in the bucket. One positive thing we've seen is really the UN partners, so many people coming together. So I think we can see a bright light that people are really pushing for change, and would like to see that change happen right now.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Hey, thank you very much for your time. That is Save the Children New Zealand Chief Executive Heather Campbell. You have a good rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
You're listening to